And so the one crate box arrived at the factory, and the people, they asked Kanika, "What is this? What's in this box?" And she said, "Krishna." A simple-hearted soul. What's in the box? Krishna. Radharani, Krishna, Mahaprabhu. Pardon me? Well, actually, Aditi Nandan Prabhu, and he made a very perfect crate. So when you open the door, it has 3 shelves. And each deity has their own shelf, because they wanted it to not be handled individually, so that only a forklift can come and lift up the whole crate, go like this, and you understand? You know, you don't want 3 times they're picking up boxes and setting them down. So that special foam that expands 200 times or something. I saw a video of Gopa Kishore doing that. So. Pardon me? No, the factory.
Same place, but slightly.
Oh.
Very close. Pink house is like few meters from
Yeah.
the factory.
So they're on their way here. We'll try. Well, we take it to see. Pardon me? The what's? Cameras. Yeah, I mean, well, I think if we take it that Krishna appeared last night, we don't need baby pictures so immediately. You know, I don't want to like open the boxes on camera or that kind. Just let them come. They're going to go to Avadut Maharaj's room, be nourished by Jamuna. And Jamuna, is Ananga going to help you, or you're going to do? Who? Right. But I mean, your hand, anyway, they need to be nourished and... Yeah, I mean, I think our devotees have the artistic skills, and I've seen videos of expert murtiwalas. They show you exactly how they do it. And so, with some divine grace, some special help from above, like on our Heidelberg press, it said, Gott grüßt die Kunst, which I think roughly translates as God appreciates art, things that are done artistically, beautifully. There it was with regard to the printing, but Kunst, I believe, means the arts in general. This is one of the arts, one of the Gopi arts, you can say. You know, flower decoration and other types of decoration. So we, it's very little, actually. You know, there's what may be an apocryphal story. It's sometimes attributed to great sculptors or other. No one really knows where it came from, but when they asked, say, great sculptor, how do you sculpt this form? And he said, by taking away everything that isn't that. You know. And when people hear that, because you think of another way, no, we're carving some preconceived idea. And he's saying, no, we're taking away everything that is not that. So our conception is that Krishna is playing in a particular way. I mean, see, otherwise all the deities would look identical, but they don't. In fact, there aren't two, in one sense, that look totally identical. Even when they do, like Gaur Nitai, you know, there's some individual qualities, characteristics. And it reminds me when Guru Maharaj, just think about this, he's 8. He's 8 years old. We know what 8-year-old children are like. Right? So when Guru Maharaj is 8, a friend of his who's 12 shows him a picture of Gaur and Nityananda. And Guru Maharaj says, who are they? This is Gaur Nityananda, Gaur Nitai. And they say that Nam Sankirtan is the, you know, that's the ultimate meditation. That is what is recommended. You know, like, and Guru Maharaj's first question, he said, do they know Siddhanta? And the man said, yes, they know Siddhanta. They know Siddhanta in philosophy? Yes, they know Siddhanta in philosophy. Then and they know Siddhanta and they know philosophy, and they're saying that Nam Sankirtan is the ultimate, you know. Guru Maharaj had to take that very seriously. So we think of Srila Prabhupada, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It can, you know, it's no mistake or accident like that he appear, or coincidence, I should say, that he appears on this day after the midnight appearance of Krishna. There's some special significance there we might allude to, when Gurudev indicated later, but when he would discuss his childhood, he gave total credit to his father. And we're talking about the Krishna book, which I still can't get over it. You know, 50 years, just the brilliance of just calling a book Krishna. And subtitle, you know, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Like that's brilliant. It's like brilliant marketing, just right to the point. Krishna, what's this? Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when he says, often people will ask, you know, when they see a book like Krishna, well, there is no other book like that. But, you know, and he says, who is Krishna and who is the girl with Krishna? And it's like, if you can just ask these, see that, and that is your response, ask these questions, that Chinmoy thread, pull on that Chinmoy thread, everything will be revealed to you that you need to know about everything, including Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Just everything will spring out of there. But in that same book, and remember, for those who are keeping score, you know, George Harrison writes the introduction, concluding with, all you need is love, you know, and Krishna love, and it's prem. The book is dedicated to Srila Prabhupada's father, Gaur Mohan De. Gaur Mohan De. He said, you know, a pure devotee. So Prabhupada would always describe his father as a pure devotee. And he said it was from him that he got everything. I mean, we're talking pre his connection by divine arrangement with Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But he means how he was raised as a child. And he said his father's always inviting sadhus over to the house. And we know, not just anybody and everybody, because later, when Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj are talking together about their connection, he mentions a program they had in Allahabad, where who they used to call old Tirtha Maharaj. That means Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha, who had connection with, you know, he's like a disciple of Bhaktivedanta Thakur, but sannyas disciple of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So they're having a program. Prabhupada invites them to his house, and his father's upstairs, and his father thinks it's the Ram Krishna mission. So he's like irritated, which tells you something about his father. Like if it's those people, even being polite and Bengali, like if that's who it is, I want nothing to do with them. Like he's not going to come out of his room. You think, you know, like we're cornered. Some sadhus have showed up and, you know. But he says, when, this is, okay. When he hears the Harikatha of Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha Maharaj, he recognizes that this is that pure flow of Mahaprabhu's line. And he said he comes downstairs and he's apologizing to them, saying, I didn't know, you know, I thought you were from the Ram Krishna mission, please forgive me. I didn't know you're like pure devotees in the line of Mahaprabhu. So, but part of the culture, the sadhus are coming over the house, and by sadhus, we take it to mean, you know, the Mahaprabhu's line. And it's interesting that Srila Prabhupada Swami Maharaj says, when they would come, he would ask them, when they asked for some blessing, he would say, please bless my son that he may become a servant of Srimati Radharani. Very telling. He didn't say, and it's within the bless my son that he'll be a great servant of Krishna. He could have said like that, and that wouldn't be inappropriate. But it's more telling that the specific type of Krishna Das, right? Please bless my son that he can be a servant of Srimati Radharani. That means that his father understands all service, substantial, real service to Krishna is transacted through Srimati Radharani. Bhargo Bhai Vishabhanu Jatma Bhivabai Karadana Sri Puram Gayatri Murlista Kirtana Dhanam Radha Padam Dhimahi. Like Srila Guru Maharaj and his Gayatri explanation. And in so many places, Nomi Jite, Abra Vapu, say, Taridambaraya, when dressed in the lightning, illuminating dress of his potency, his Shakti, then Krishna is revealed. Taridambar. Right? And he, as a child, also had, he said his father would teach him mridanga, and the mother would say, why are you teaching him mridanga? You know, like you should teach him other things. You know, and his father would say, no, like this mridanga is what he should learn. This will be very useful to him in the future. Who leads the worldwide kirtan of the Krishna consciousness movement. And as a child, his childhood pastime is celebrating Rath Yatra. Right? And we've seen in Kolkata, the children in the neighborhood, and where our mat is, I've seen, they may have a cart that's this big or bigger, and they're pulling it in the street, and they go around the tank, then they come to our deities, circumambulate the deities, and they have their own little Rath Yatra festival. And I remember, there's this one girl, she's pulling her cart, and so while she goes by, I went like, Jai Jagannath, and she's very happy. But then I start going, and then she's going, no, come, and I come over and kneel down, and she lifts up a little curtain on the back of the cart, and there's like prasad, and she knows that she has to give me some of the Jagannath prasad, and then can continue. So, but what we hear about Srila Prabhupada is not only is he observing this himself, but he's engaging all the other children. You know, like, Hul, you're mridanga, you're kartals, you're pulling the cart, you're fanning, you're doing the, like, he's assigning them different types of seva, which seems to be indicative of, you know, his supremely auspicious future. So, which, interestingly, he will say when he and Guru Maharaj have that meeting in Mayapur, and Srila Gurudev was there, we've seen Madhusudana Maharaj gave the title for the picture, you know, the Holy Trinity, where the three of them assemble there, and they're discussing their lives. And Srila Prabhupada will say that his idea was that he would be successful at business. He had some inventing capacity and creating different pharmaceutical concoctions and different types of medicine. And that being a wealthy businessman, he would use his wealth to promote Krishna consciousness. And you know, so many times over the years we've heard devotees express some similar version of this, you know, and you know, you kind of smile and wish them well. But in the case of Prabhupada, the great irony is that he's that one person whom, if that had been achieved, could be relied upon to actually use his wealth to promote the Krishna consciousness movement. Right? But it's almost like that would be too easy. Right? If that's the way that Krishna operates, right, then he would just flood a bunch of money to a particular person, and then that person, you know, that does not have the drama of the Leela that is that excites Krishna. Like in one place, Gurudev said once that about Braja Jana Palana Asurakula and Paritranaya Sadhunam Vinashaya Tridaskara. He said, if the sadhus aren't not in trouble, then there's nothing for Krishna to, you know, to save. If everything's just going smoothly and perfectly, no necessity for his descent or his, you know, to save everyone. And you see in Krishna Lila, repeatedly, the devotees find themselves in these life-threatening situations. And Bhaktivedanta Thakur draws our attention to the level of surrender they have, like the poison waters of the Kaliya, and they're sitting there, let us drink the poison waters of the Kaliya, knowing that Krishna is here and nothing can harm us. As reminiscent when the breakdown of Gaudiya Math and Guru Maharaj effected a compromise, and they're celebrating with some prasadam, and Srila Govinda Maharaj goes to give Ananta Vasudeva Prabhu some rasgolas. And he's thinking, aha, it's a trick. We did all this negotiation. Now they give me the poison rasgola, I die, and everything is there. So he said, you know, no, Prabhu, it's all right. But Srila Govinda Maharaj, he went to Guru Maharaj, he said, Vasudeva Prabhu will not take the rasgola. I think he thinks that there may be something there. He said, but if you come and give that rasgola to Guru Maharaj, from your hand, he will take it. And Guru Maharaj comes out and he offers the poison, he offers the rasgola to Vasudeva Prabhu, and without hesitation, he takes that. So what he thought a minute before could kill him, he thought, he has so much faith, he said, anything that comes from the hand of the Vaishnava must be beneficial for me. So he, without hesitation, accepted that. So Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj, they're having this discussion, And Prabhupada is mentioning his plans for becoming a big businessman, and then he starts laughing and quoting the Bhagavatam verse, Yashaham anugranami harishe tadanam shanai. That if Krishna really favors someone, he takes everything away from them. And when he's telling them, he's laughing. And what he means to say is that everything fell apart in his so-called, family life. Right? One by one, or as it's saying, at first things fell apart gradually, then all at once. So, with Vaishnava Maharaj, Srila Prabhu, we were with Prabhupada on the roof in Bombay once. He's talking about his family life and said he had these children to arrange their marriage, and he tried to make these arrangements. He was sitting on the rooftop, like just telling us all that. And he said, I made some arrangement. He said, but my wife did not approve. And then he said, therefore I said, let them all go to hell. I did what I could. And his sister said, Prabhu, you're meant for preaching. We'll take care of these family affairs for you. You just concentrate on preaching. Because in 1922, he had met Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur at the insistence of a friend of his, and on a rooftop in Calcutta, and he argued with Saraswati Thakur in favor of Indian independence. Because he said, I was a young man wearing khadi, that means a member of Gandhi's independence movement. He said, if no one will take us seriously unless we get independence first. So let's get independence and then we'll promote Mahaprabhu's teachings. He said, but Saraswati Thakur defeated him. And he laughed and said, it was a natural defeat. And he convinced, no, now is the time. Don't worry about independence. Remember, that didn't come till 10 years after the departure of Saraswati Thakur from this world. He said, we need to promote Mahaprabhu's teachings now, not wait for some seemingly more favorable environment and atmosphere. And he would say, when he's back at the pharmacy, he was saying like, oh, I met such a wonderful sadhu. And he would see him in his mind's eye and then go back to whatever it was he was doing. But from time to time, he would keep thinking about this extraordinary sadhu that made such a deep impression upon him. And when his friend said to him, what did you think? He said, I'm convinced he is the messenger of Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu's movement is in good hands. Right? So that was like 22. In 1933, he gets initiated. His birth name, Abhay Charan, and extended to Abhay Charan Aravinda. Right? And just like we sang in the song of Govinda Das, right? Abhaya Charan Aravindare Bhajahunre Mana Sri Nanda Nandana. Today's Nanda Nandan, Krishna's appearance day. Sri Nanda Nandana. What is the next line? Abhaya Charan Aravindare Durlava Manava Janu. Everything is there in this little song. Human life is very rarely achieved, and what Janama Satsange. But if you can get Satsanga, and Prabhupada says in that talk with Guru Maharaj, Lava Matra Sadhu Sange Sarva Siddhi Hoy. I got that moment's association with Saraswati Thakur. Sometimes he says that I did not meet with my Guru Maharaj more than 10 times. Right? And that briefly. And he also coupled that with saying, and I only asked him one question. What? How can I serve you? Right? And what was his response? You're an educated young man. You spread Mahaprabhu's teachings in the English-speaking countries. Right? That simple. Right? He asked one question. This is the answer to that question. This is what I want you to do. When Goswami Maharaj and others saw he had some extraordinary capacity, they tried to get him involved in like local Gaudiya Math, and Saraswati Thakur would say, no, let him go on separately. He'll do the desired service in time. Don't try and bring him in now, as if he had some vision of the future, which he most certainly did. So 33 initiated. He and Guru Maharaj recall meeting each other. Guru Maharaj joined 27, so 33. And the Brajamandal Parikrama, they're there with Srila Saraswati Thakur and Vrindavan, and they're told the sannyasis are going to lead a party of parikramis to go to see Sheshai Vishnu, which has some special connection with the Braja Gopis. Right? But Prabhupada, Saraswati Thakur, he'll be taking the class for the British audience, giving the class for the Americans in the evening. Right? So Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj, they're talking back and forth, and Prabhupada says when he goes, I'm thinking, if I go to Sheshai, what will I see? It's nice to hear them talk like this. And Guru Maharaj, quoting Saraswati Thakur, says, I exercise. And they both start giggling. And what does that mean? We're told the famous event, told in various ways, where some of Saraswati Thakur's devotees come from a darshan and say whether they've seen Jagannath or Gaur Gadadhar. And he says, oh, like, let's just say Jagannath. You saw Jagannath? Yes, Maharaj, we're there. You saw Jagannath? Yes, Prabhupada. You saw Jagannath? And they're going, no, we did not see Jagannath. You're going, yes, that is your eye exercise. Because we're told, when you look at the deities, start with the lotus feet, then your eyes shall go up, and then the lotus face can go around this way and that way, and this. So he's saying, if you... I think Srila Saraswati Thakur really had a wonderful sense of humor, because numerous things he says like this. So what do you see? It means your eyeball is literally going down and up and to the left and to the right. And so it's so sweet and humorous, but to the point. He's saying, what you just did was eye exercise. What do you mean? Why? Well, aren't we supposed to do that? Isn't that what darshan is? Not according to Guru Maharaj. He says, our capacity to see the deity is very limited. We present ourselves to be seen by the deity. That's our good fortune, to come before the deity. That's why we should make ourselves nice and presentable. Present ourselves to the deities to be bathed in their divine glance. And if it is their sweet will, they may allow us to see some aspect of their inconceivable beauty. Yang Shama Sundaram Achintya Guna Swarupam. And like about Jagannath, Guru Maharaj is saying, and what do we see? He said, an awkward figure. And he said, and what does Mahaprabhu see? That he's seeing Shama Sundar Krishna, Ganga-like streams of tears are shooting out of his eyes as if from a syringe. And when he has darshan of Jagannath. So he's saying Shama Sundar Krishna like that. But so Prabhupada said, I'm thinking, what will I see? I exercise. They laugh, but they stay. And that's when Saraswati Thakur, notice these little things that are meaningful. Saraswati Thakur sees Swami Maharaj Prabhupada and says, oh, he didn't go. He stayed to hear me. Like he noted that, like, and his favor, that was meaningful. And Guru Maharaj noted it, Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, they all noted that. But Guru Maharaj, having his extraordinary capacity, not only does he remember this wonderful pastime, But he also remembers the talk that Saraswati Thakur gave. And he said, and that evening, Guru Maharaj gave something we'd never heard before, an extraordinary interpretation of Govardhan, Govardhana. How from that position, Govardhan, they make no discrimination, the cowmen, when they want to increase the numbers of cows, he said, no consideration, Brahman cow, Kshatriya cow, Vaishya cow, Shudra cow, just you have the potent source and may make more cows. What was that cow in Davali in Kolkata? We all affectionately remember, a little white cow. So that is it. The potent source, and then like Akrishti, Kritachetasam, Sumanasam, Uchtatanam, Changasam, Achandala, Amukha, Loka, Sulabo, Mukhya, Bhakya, Shriya. No diksham, nachasatkriyam, na purushcharja managikshate, mantro yam rasanas prageva palati, Sri Krishna namatmaka. When Krishna wants to descend, to reveal himself, the ontological, sucritic pH content of the soil is irrelevant. Krishna will spring out of that soil if it is his divine will. So he's saying because Krishna is a Vaishya, he employs this method in distribution, Hare Krishna, of himself. You understand? So he's saying that's how we get Krishna's mercy. He, and especially as Mahaprabhu, he's not considering who's fit, who's unfit. Like Preme Matta Nityananda Kripa Avatar, Uttamadam, Kore Kichu Navichar, no consideration. So this is Saraswati's extracting from Govardhan, the significance of Govardhan, through this method of the cowherdsman, because Krishna is a Gowal, then that's how he's distributing his Krishna conception. Like that was the talk they stayed for. So, anyway, that's 1933, thereabout. Then 44, he starts Back to Godhead magazine, right? And what's the slogan? Krishna Surya Samahoy Andhakar. What does it say? Maya is darkness, Godhead is light. Where there is Godhead, there is no darkness. Something like that. It's from the Charitamritam. That's it. So his subhead is Chaitanya Charitamritam. And so, and we can think for a moment too. So you're dealing with the Swayam Bhagavan, Krishna. How does that translate into the modern world or local circumstances? Yena tena prakarena mana krishnena vesha. The expert devotees. And who do I, let me clarify who I mean by expert devotees. I mean Bhaktivedanta Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and their faithful followers, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Gurudev. They're the experts, can translate this divine substance and something meaningful, accessible, palpable into the local environment, the current context. So he makes Back to Godhead magazine. Right? And at this time, well, let's say a few years later, make it 47, as Guru Maharaj said, this brisky boy, who became known as Gaurendu Brahmachari, or Srila Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj, he joins Guru Maharaj. And this makes me smile too. So what does Guru Maharaj do? He sends him to be with Swami Maharaj in Calcutta to distribute Back to Godhead magazines, do some collection, get some training in Bhagavad. Swami Maharaj there translating Bhagavad Gita, teaching, Srila Govinda Maharaj. It's very sweet, the so-called number 6 Sitakant Banerjee Lane. When we heard that, it was like indelibly impressed on. We all went there, and people would be bewildered in Calcutta. I've been to so many buildings that they don't know have some divine origin, and suddenly people show up and start giving dandavats and singing prayers, you know? And then and being the Sukriti-born people they are, they're eager to know about it. You say, this is Harrison Road, it's now Mahatma Gandhi Road, but it used to be Harrison Road. This is where His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada appeared. You know, when I was serving in Calcutta, number 3 Albert Road, 443757. Prabhupada would send us to his relatives to that address to do programs from time to time. And what do you call that? Where you have the balcony, like you said, you know, there's a balcony up here and then a little courtyard and everyone assembles in the courtyard. Havela. You told me in Vrindavan. It's right next to the Haveli? Yeah. So they have that, and you could see that's all, and probably the ladies would be in the balcony, and then they put the mats out, and as it was the case, you know, someone would come out with a harmonium, so we would do our kirtan, and give a little talk, and some prasadam distribution, and then they would do some kirtan too. And I just have to say, this kirtan would make you cry. It was that sweet. It looked like an assembly of the cowherd men and their wives and elderly, like they'd all got together and they were, you know, just, you had tears in your eyes. And they would sing about Radhan Krishna and Gopal, and it was just too sweet to bear, practically, you know. But they were so happy to receive us, right? Like, this is exciting to them. Like, people have come from the Western world, and that's part of Prabhupada's program. His idea was like the Bengalis, not limited to, but the Gaudiyas, they'll go from the ones who are fixed up, you know, and have some nishta, they'll go to the West and preach, and then the Western preachers, they'll come to India and preach. And when the Indian people see these, for lack of a better word, white people, people from the West taking up Krishna consciousness, they will become revived. And we see that that's true. To this day, there's no institution, religious organization, promoting Krishna consciousness in India and around the world, but particularly India, that can anywhere come near to what ISKCON is doing, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. It's just astonishing. One time I was there some years ago with Samdeep, and we were driving back to Delhi, and I'm familiar with the Krishna Balaram Mandir. I was there with Srila Prabhupada at different times. And I could say something. He's giving a talk there, right? And this verse, and it's not fully done yet, so there's rebar in some places, but the temple's being built. And he said, he knows that some people are saying, like, what do you need another temple in Vrindavan for? Right? As he himself says, the land of 5,000 temples. So you need another one. Right? He is addressing that. And the verse, these things happen for Prabhupada so many times, like the magical coinciding of what he's thinking about or his heart is expressing and what's coming out of the pages of the Bhagavatam and through him. Like Sukha Mukhadam Ritra Drava Samyatam. So the verse says, Amayo Yaschabhutanam, it's Narada, Amayo Yaschabhutanam, Jayate Yena Subrata, Tadeva Hyamayam Dravyam, not Punati Chikirtsitam. And he says, does not a thing, when applied therapeutically, become the cure for the same thing that was the cause of a disease? Right? So that means particularly milk. Right? So due to overindulgence in milk, you know, you can get indigestion and other things. So while Prabhupada's giving this talk, he knows all these devotees, they're mad for the sweet called rubbery, right? Which is a Vrindavan sweet, right? This just milk cooked down, just like inconceivable, the quantity of milk, how far it's cooked down into its final substance. So everyone's heard about that. But what they don't know, this isn't like other sweets, but you can take very little of this. Right? It's meant to be taken in very small portions on account of the concentration. If you overindulge, you're going to get indigestion and other things. Right? So while he's on the Vyasa-san, he's actually back, like in his pharmaceutical days, like Gurudev, prescribing medical treatment. Well, not homeopathy, but he's telling us, so you take yoga. He's actually telling us how to cure what we're all suffering from. Although we're all pretending to be, good, but there's so many in the audience who are actually suffering from this very thing. And then he's showing in the verse, he's saying, so the milk was the cause of this disease. But milk, when transformed in another way, then applied therapeutically, becomes the cure for that thing that caused the disease. So, implying, yes, there are so many temples, but what is the conception there in all these various places? So he wants the pure representation of Krishna consciousness. So again, there'll be another temple, just like in the line of Saraswati Thakur, so many Gaudiya Mats. So he's making another temple. And in that temple, this ideal that he got from his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, will be promoted, preached, practiced, promoted there. That's why in the same meeting, Guru Maharaj says, he's fulfilled the, the prophecy of Bhaktivedanta Thakur and Mahaprabhu and the order of Srila Saraswati Thakur by taking Krishna consciousness all around the world. He said, we are happy, we are glad, we are proud. And if you listen to Guru Maharaj speaking, he's saying this with so much heart. It's not empty praise or flattery. It's from his heart. He's saying, we are happy, we are glad, we are proud that he has done this. So that Srila Govinda Maharaj, who was Gaurarendu Brahmachari at the time, so he's like 17 years old. It's 1947. India's on the verge of independence. And Prabhupada's got him out in the streets distributing Back to Godhead magazines. And he'll come back saying what sort of opposition he got from the local people. And Prabhupada will say, all right, if they say this, then you say this. If they say that, then you say this. If they talk about Ma Kali, then you say, look at Ma Kali, she's got all those skulls. You want to be one of those? They talk about Durga Devi, see how she's holding the demon's head? Do you want that? And many different things along the verses of Yanti Deva, Vrata Devan, that section, like heavy, hard-hitting comebacks. Because when I was doing that once, made my pitch to the man who's like listening to me, and when he's like, you're done? All right, yeah. He said, there are only two people I worship in this world. And he had these two pictures on his desk, and he goes, my mother and Ma Kali. But he went, ding. But I think you're sincere. So, he gave a donation. But he just told me, you're wasting your time on me. So we're told, Bengalis are a hard nut to crack. Right? So Gurudev had his own experience with them. He said in his last, went to Madhusudan Maharaj, and I was like, again, his disappearance bed, and he still got his sense of humor. And he says, we're explaining some situation to him. He goes, remember, he's lying. He goes, I will tell you one thing. He said, I will never believe anything a Bengali says. This is Gurudev. And then he says, in fact, Whatever they say, I say just the opposite. And then I'm starting to like grin, and he looks at me, and with this deadpan earnest face, he goes, of course, Guru Maharaj, Swami Maharaj, and myself, not bad. They're the best. The Holy Trinity, that's his, like, they're the three who we exempt from all these other considerations, even from his divine grace himself. So they have their own experience, right? Why Mahaprabhu knew, like the people in Orissa, they go, Mahaprabhu, he was kicked out of Navadvip by the Bengalis. Had to come to Orissa. We understand Chaitanya Dev. They had no appreciation. So he had to come to Orissa. So Guru Maharaj would laugh about that and say, yes, they say, Navadvip he rejected, Oriya or Puri he collected. Right? So they meet with their strategy, and sometimes over breakfast. And we know, those who know Srila Prabhupada Swami Maharaj know, in the morning, his breakfast is like aloo dum and some puris, right? It's a sabji and, like, we could say hearty, like, Srila Govinda Maharaj, one is that, muri, and variations. So sometimes Swami Maharaj is encouraged, like, Gorindu, have some puris and some sabji. And Srila Govinda Maharaj saying, no, muri is sufficient for me. And he had said that, then Swami Maharaj said, muri, that is cheating the stomach. So this delightful banter they have, and we could say, really, this is the son that he wanted. He wanted his sons to be exclusive devotees of Mahaprabhu. So he had some special affection for Srila Govinda Maharaj, and we'll mention that here, and Srila Govinda Maharaj's affection for him. But so that's in the 40s, 55, he's transitioning from household life to vanaprastha, retired, and then into sannyas, living in Vrindavan. And in one of, he writes these cryptic remarks in his little notebooks, and from time to time he writes some poems, and he says, now that I am penniless in Vrindavan, he said, the only thing that remains of my family life is a long list of names. So he's saying, when I had money, people were interested in me. Now I have no money, they don't want to hear from me, nothing. Right? And many things he observed of the local people while he's there, and he's living in the Radha Damodar temple. But as given in the sloka of Guru Maharaj in praise of Srila Saraswati Thakur, the last line, Vilasatu Hridi Nityam Bhakti Siddhanta Vani. In his heart, it's like a drum beat of the order of Srila Saraswati Thakur to take Krishna consciousness to the Western world, particularly the English-speaking countries. So he's there. And for those who've seen, you've seen, Bobo's seen Prabhupada's room, right? This little room in the Radha Damodar temple, where if you keep the doors open, from where he sits, you can actually have darshan of the deities, and really extraordinary, actually. And there, he's typing his manuscript for Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is originally called Science of Devotion, Light of the Bhagavad, Prayers of King Kulashekar, many things, actually. Sometimes we think just the Bhagavatam, that would have been enough, but more than that. Right? He did 5 chapters of the Charitamritam before leaving India, in Adi 1, those first 5 chapters. So he's there, And he has such insufficient funds that he's typing on paper that's already been used. The other side of the paper has already been typed on. So in India, because they don't throw anything away, they're into recycling before it was popular. You can buy that paper. It's cheaper than fresh virgin paper. So with that, and he's always remembering the order of his Guru Maharaj. And he said, particularly in parsing the slok, Vyavasayatmika Buddhi Ekeha Kurunandana of Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, his commentary on this verse in the Bhagavad Gita that talks about the resolute determination that is necessary to progress successfully in Krishna consciousness. So, in reading Chakrabarti Thakur's commentary on this, he said he had an epiphany that the disciples' reason for living should be none different than fulfilling the order of Guru. We, from our position, we can say an aspiration, like Guru Maharaj gave Prapanna Jivanamritam, all these verses from surrendered souls, and we can hear that, and sometimes something there resonates with us, at least in the sense of a prospect or the possibility, or we're inspired to know that such a plane of surrenderedness and devotion exists. We never think that we are there or that we've achieved that. But Prabhupada is the personification of this principle. So it comes to him. The only reason that he exists is to fulfill the order of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And in Guru Maharaj's words, he wholly empties himself of any other desire or consideration. So, when, at advanced age, he's seeking passage to America. And remember, not only does he not have enough money to fly, he doesn't have enough money to go by boat. So he's approaching this pious lady who owns a shipping company, and they have a limited number of cabins on there that if she'll give him free passage. And that's nothing to her. But the reason she doesn't want to do it is she's thinking, he's not, it's 30 days at sea. He won't survive. And then I'll have the death of a sadhu on my hands. So she's finding excuses all the time why not to, she's denying him. Until finally Krishna gives her the inspiration to accept this. And so what does Prabhupada do? He's printed some Bhagavatam volumes, loads them in a trunk, couple mridangas, kartals, tilak, just different devotional paraphernalia. And I'd seen his passport. There, it shows him in sannyas vesh, just an uttariya, no shirt, huge tilak marking on his arms and his head. And then the margin it says, Father, and you see it's written, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. Like he's on that level. Right? And you see him there with the big tilak and he gets on the boat and and I should say this too. Now, it's almost like a Hollywood story, the Hollywood ending, the American dream kind of thing. But he doesn't know that at this point. He doesn't know what the outcome of this will be. So within a few days, when they're finally at sea, because it starts in Kolkata and then goes to the southern tip of India, then they're really, you get a little bit, you go from one port to another, but then once you leave the southern tip of India, that's it. And you can see he's keeping a diary, they give you a little booklet, and he's recording his experiences. And at first, Prabhupada's a meticulous accountant, tells you how much he spent at the market, or postage. He keeps records of everything. But then a shift comes where you see, now he's expressing some feelings from his heart about this. And he's saying, now I'm so far from Vrindavan. And he said, now, and I'm feeling separation from my worshipable lords, Madan Mohan, Radha Damodar, Madan Mohan, Radha Govinda, etc. He said, I depend exclusively upon their mercy so far from Vrindavan. When Prabhupada says these things, it's real. Right? He's saying them, he's expressing his heart. These are heartfelt, in the deep heart's core, his realizations. Then he says at one point that he says, daily I am relishing the nectarine of Chaitanya Leela, the source of my all vitality. That's also a very telling, revealing remark. So he's saying, he's reading Chaitanya Charitamritam every day, and that's giving him vitality, life, inspiration. As Kaviraj Goswami concludes at the Madhya Leela, if you don't drink the nectar of the pastimes of Mahaprabhu, you'll fall in the pitfall of false argument or the whirlpool of unfortunate situations. So, and we know this Krishna, how, Bahe Vishajalahoy Bitare Anandamoy Krishna Premarad Bhuta Charit. That Krishna is so addicted to a particular quality of prema that manifests from the heart of a devotee when the maximum amount of pressure is placed upon their heart. Because we can say, well, don't they already love Krishna? Be happy with that. Why you have to, get in the coils of Kaliya and give them all a heart attack? Why? Because there's something about when the pressure is put, the maximum amount of pressure is put upon the heart, that it starts yielding, because these devotees, they're given over to Krishna under all circumstances and under all conditions. They never abandon him. Nothing can break them. Then their heart yields this particular type of prema that Krishna is addicted to. So, because we might think he's cruel or insensitive to put them in such difficult circumstances, we can think, isn't it enough at this age, what he's doing, putting everything on the line to travel over? And what happens? In the middle of the ocean, no land in sight anywhere, heart attack. And we can say, Krishna, why? Why is that necessary? And maybe two. And what does Guru Maharaj say? He wholly emptied himself of any other desire than the order of his Gurudev. Right? That divine power had to come down and work on his behalf. That was the result of that. And what did Prabhupada say? He said, then I had this dream. Remember, he had a heart attack. And you see in the book, there's a gash on the pages. And he talks about this dream where Krishna with many armies rowing the boat and says, remember his name? Abhay. Charana, he goes, don't worry, Abhay. Like now the boat is under Krishna's control. And the captain writes in the log, like, I've been, a captain at sea for 40 years, and suddenly the ocean's like a pond. There's no waves. I've never seen this in 40 years of sailing. So the boat's just going very smoothly. And then what does Prabhupada do? He says, today I made bati chachari. That's the Bengali comfort food, little like julienne, the potatoes cooked in its own bowl with mustard oil and so, It's classic Bengali comfort food. Prabhupada said, today I made bati chachari and I'm feeling much better. So, but the Guru said, divine power had to come down. That's always the sign of devotion, where the infinite comes under the control of the finite. But to reach there, look at the path of Srila Prabhupada. To reach to this point, where Krishna has to come down and offer himself to him in service. Incredible, inconceivable, incomparable. Okay. Then he arrives in Boston, actually, and they cannot disembark. They have to stay on the ship. And he writes this poem, Markine Bhagavata Dharma, preaching Bhagavat Dharma in America. That includes those Bhagavatam slokas, Srinvata Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana, Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu, etc. And once with Brisha Kapi, Prabhu, and Sureshri Didi in Washington, D.C., on like the 200th anniversary, 76, America, Prabhupada was there. And it was also an anniversary of his coming to America. And these poems, we got to read the Prabhupada, these two poems I've had. And this one about preaching Bhagavad Dharma in America, and he described, the passion is overwhelmed by the modes of, the population is overwhelmed by the modes of passion and ignorance, and it goes on. And so it's giving these descriptions, and Prabhupada starts like smiling to himself and saying, he said, how could I know? I hadn't got off the ship. He say, Shastra Chaksu, through the eyes of Scripture. Right? So that's the poem that he concludes by saying. So he's basically saying, after he describes what America's like, he's saying, like, I do not know why you have brought me to this place. A place where when he's giving a lecture and he'll say something like, we've all seen pictures of Krishna, on posters, calendars, and then there's like a dead silence. And you hear Prabhupada go like, oh. He realizes the people he's talking to have never seen a picture of Krishna, not on a poster, not on the yearly calendar that's hanging in your office. You hear him go, oh. Then what is his response to that? Art department. Crank out pictures of Krishna. Show these people, they've never seen the Chintaguna Swarup of Krishna. When the devotees later say, Prabhupada, on all these paintings, is this what Krishna really looks like? And he says, not exactly, but you will recognize him when you see him. So he's saying, so you must have brought me here for a reason. I'm your puppet. Did you bring me here to dance? If you've brought me here to dance, he's saying then, oh Lord, make me dance, make me dance, make me dance. Oh Lord, make me dance. As you wish. This level of just total self-sacrifice, self-offering, self-giving, self-surrender. And boy, did Krishna make him dance. And that dance of Prabhupada and his kirtan gradually attracted so many devotees. But even then, this Krishna and the cliffhangers, right? A year there, it looks like it's not going to happen. You know? He's got his books and bookstores, he gives some lectures, he has to share apartments with non-veg, refrig people, you know, all kinds of, Prabhupada, like, we can't believe how much he tolerated, right? And overlooked to be merciful to others. And when he's actually going back to, he's looking at the chalkboard, like when the next boat will go back to India. He's going right to see when is one leaving. He's saying, I've done what I could. Also, God brothers in it, no help coming. He shows them a nice building and a real nice part of Manhattan in New York City, and no help will become, no financial assistance. So that's when a devotee who will later become Hayagriva Prabhu, his editor, professor from a university, English teacher, sees him, and Prabhupada looks so extraordinary. And he just says to him, like, are you from India? Golokera Prema Danahari. He descended from Goloka Vrindavan for this very reason, to distribute the wealth. That's what Gurudev told Siddhanta Maharaj. He heard Gurudev say nicely that after, on Nandotsav, that Yashoda's got this beautiful baby boy, Krishna, and so many people come and they're bringing gifts, and like the wealth and is expanding. And they're saying, like, there's so much wealth here, who can distribute all of this? And then a cowherd boy comes forward and says, I will. And you can understand something about that. So that person who descended here for this very reason makes this connection. Through him, a chain reaction of devotion and Prabhupada always emphasizing book distribution, book publishing, book distribution. In time, you know, hundreds of temples established all over the world, tens of millions of his books distributed. And if you asked him about it, he would just say, I'm a humble, aspiring servitor of my Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He gave these orders, I'm following them blindly. I do not know what is the outcome. But we know what is the outcome. We're the beneficiaries of that. And so he established so many temples in America and all over the world, then all over India, and I think as a the most fitting gesture in the year of his departure, just before, in 1976, in New York City, where he came penniless. Right? I've mentioned this before, that like when devotees want to build a temple, very often they're thinking to do something like that there is in India, and then transport that to the local environment, and that's a wonderful thing to do. Right? But I just find it interesting when they'd ask Prabhupada, like, what was his idea? And he would say, I want a glass skyscraper that says ISKCON on it. You know? That's what he saw in New York. And that skyscraper ocean, and there he's saying, I want one of these, and it says International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Right? He didn't say, oh, like what is that? St. Patrick's, the cathedral. No, I want a glass skyscraper. So he got a version of that, and we had the good fortune to be there. And the Rath Yatra festival is coming. So just say, what he celebrated in his childhood, and what is the key pastime of Mahaprabhu and his devotees in Chaitanya Charitamritam, that's his pastime for spreading the Krishna consciousness movement in the Western world. So they invite the press, and there was this mezzanine floor where he could go outside. And so all these members of the different newspapers and New York media are there with their books, and they're asking him about this coming festival. And I think Prabhupada had this ability to distill something into a talking point. So, and how to simultaneously massage the ego of the local people. They're all Americans, New Yorkers. Like sometimes Gurudev would say more than, he would say, he blasted a tunnel through the ego. Because we know Prabhupada saying, about the scientist, when they would present their point of view, sometimes they say, science, we kick on their face. So he said he blasted a tunnel through the ego of the Western world, but he also knew how to be very charming and how to flatter them and to gain their support. So they're all sitting there with their notepads, and Prabhupada says, he goes, America is the most important country in the world. And they all go, oh, yeah, America's the most important. They like that. And then he goes, and in America, New York is the most important city. And they'll think, yeah, we're all New York. Yeah, of course. Very nice. Yeah, New York. Yeah. In New York, Fifth Avenue is the most important street. And they go, oh, right, yeah. America, New York, Fifth Avenue. And then probably go, on that street, we are having our Rath Yatra festival. Like on the most important street, in the most important city, in the most important country in the world. That's where we're having our festival. Like perfect, like with a bow on it. And what that meant, and it's all true, and that street was shut down with what they call New York's finest, means all the policemen in New York, they're all lined along the sides. They're the guards. Like you have the ones in Puri, the police in Puri, they're on the sides, protecting Jagannath, the chariot and everything. So there's the New York City policemen. They're all up and down Fifth Avenue, from where it starts to where it ends. And then these 3 Puri-sized chariots, not little chariots, Puri-sized, like replicas practically of what you have in Jagannath Puri. They're coming, and Prabhupada would always go on Subhadra's chariot, right? And so he's, and so happy. And then all the devotees with, like the 16 mridangas and the infinite number of kartal players and gong players and dancers and singers and flowers and celebration. And we saw, so that person who said, the insignificant beggar, Bhaktivedanta Swami, you brought me here to dance, oh Lord, make me dance. He made the whole world dance to the holy name of Krishna. And as much as, from Prabhupada's point of view, this was he's celebrating Krishna, distributing Krishna's holy name to the world to please Mahaprabhu, fulfill Bhaktivinoda's prediction, the order of his Guru Maharaj Saraswati Thakur, and to the delight of all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. But it occurred to me that this is Krishna's gift to him. Like remember Sanatana Goswami when he's saying Madan Mohan, Sanatan, if you can give some if you can add a little salt to these chapati balls, then Sanatan, if you can add a little ghee, and Sanatan Goswami says, oh, Krishna wants to feed me. So in the name of glorifying Krishna, and that's true, it was all to glorify Krishna, I began to see, really, this was Krishna's way of glorifying Srila Prabhupada. And that's where we always find devotion, where the infinite comes under the control of the finite. So he's parading his devotee on a chariot on the most important street, in the most important city, in the most important country in the world, to celebrate his devotion. Right? Guru Maharaj said, when you become a devotee, if you decide to pursue Krishna consciousness, he said, don't expect a parade, unless you're His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. And Prabhupada expected no such thing. But Krishna arranged this. Right? He paraded his pure devotee in this joyous celebration. So, and just to conclude, to tie this together, so many things, we can be approached from different ways, infinite levels of meaning, interpretation. So we like the famous sloka from the Mahabharata and praise of the appearance of Mahaprabhu, Suvarna Varna Hemango Barangas Chandanagadi Sanyasa Kritamat Shanto Nishta Shanti Parayana. It's quoted by Gopinath Acharya to Sarvabhauma, quoted by all devotees to establish the legitimacy that Gauranga Mahaprabhu is Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, is the Vishnu Sahasranam, which is included in the Mahabharata. But Guru Maharaj can identify very specific things. So I had my own list of things I had observed, and when I approached Guru Maharaj, because I wanted to see, am I going in the right direction with this or not? Guru Maharaj supplied more and connected things. So, and then it took for a long time thinking and considering. And so he said, because when he said divine power had to come down and work on his behalf, he said, therefore I've declared him a Shaktavesh avatar. Many can say that now. We should remember, this comes from Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And this is not some sort of exaggeration or flattery. Guru Maharaj, he said, I declared him a Shaktavesh avatar. Tadat manam srijamyaham, we told last night in Gita. Right? But then Guru Maharaj says more specifically, Nityananda's Avesh. And why? With a little list of assembled things. Because, we told Gaur Mohan Dey and this family, you look in Charitamritam. Prabhupada himself, quoting Saraswati Thakur's purport, will say, Nityananda Prabhu likes this family line very much. We know as merciful as he is, somehow this family, he's even more merciful to them. They've caught the merciful glance of Nityananda Prabhu, the Suvarna Vanik. They're gold merchants. So like the Suvarna Varna Hemanga. So it can also mean who descends in this line. Right? Hemanga, Prabhupada's golden-like form, like every day mustard oil. There has to be mustard oil. Massage before bathing, must be, right? And with his own spiritual radiance and the mustard oil, sometimes it just looked like Prabhupada was translucent at times, or just extra glowing, and the amount of divine current passing through him. Right? Nityananda Avesh, Hemango, Baranga, Chandanagadi, and always covered with so much chandan. You can see pictures sometimes, Prabhupada, his entire forehead, the sides of his face, and if his arms under, sometimes he's just like covered in sandalwood pulp, right? But like very happily, he once said, he said, it keeps you cool and calm the whole day. And he's saying, again, the power that's passing through him, like there's some shedding, the heat, the intensity of the magnitude of spiritual current. Barandas Chandana, Sannyasakrit Shama Shanto. And then he takes sannyas. And when he said before he decided to, his guru would appear to him in a dream, Saraswati Thakur, when he was still in the days of household life, and he said, my Guru Maharaj would appear to me and he'd say, come out, come out. And Prabhupada said, I thought, horrible. It's his play. But Saraswati Thakur was telling him, come out, come out. And he came out, and he takes sannyas, and then Nishta Shanti Parayana, and he, gives shelter to the whole world in the form of the Krishna consciousness movement, by extending the Krishna consciousness movement to them. So, on that notebook, it has running heads, like Scindia's steamship line. It says, we carry India's message of peace and goodwill. No more prophetic words were ever said. That's what Nishta Shanti Parayana. We carry, like, whatever is the best thing India has ever had to offer to the world to give you shelter. That's our service. So what's the name of the very ship that carries him? Jaladuta, which means water messenger. Right? So the Jaladuta ship, water messenger, carries India's message of peace and goodwill way more than we could understand what peace and goodwill mean when we connect it to Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And here's the last thing I'm going to say. And is that the third time I've said that? So it's probably it's the second to the last thing. Because the last thing will be Gurudev's prayers, which I will just read. But, so in that prayer, so we have Markine Bhagavata Dharma, but then the other one's called Prayer to the Lotus Feet of Krishna. And that's where he says this mysterious refrain there where it's a direct prayer to Krishna, and he's saying, now he's giving some internal aspect of himself. And he's saying, I felt so much separation from you today that I cried out for you. Like, in a very heavy, intense way, because I couldn't tolerate the separation anymore. He's saying, and he's addressing Krishna as my dear brother. And he's saying, I can't wait till we're picnicking on the banks of the Jamuna and running and frolicking in the forest of Vrindavan. Like, I can't bear another moment's separation from that, but my guru, and he goes, Saraswati Thakur, he says, who is Sachi Sutta Priya, who's very dear to Mahaprabhu. And he mentions also Radharani Kushihabe. So Guru Maharaj, when he heard it, he said, what he's saying, is substantial and appropriate in the Gaudiya line to understand Guru as Radharani's surrogate. Radharani's suggestion descends in the Guru Parampara. Right? So he's saying, Saraswati Thakur Sachi Sutta Priya. My Guru has given me some service to do. Right? I want to be with you picnicking on the banks of the Jamuna, running and frolicking in the forest of Vrindavan, and play as we do. But my Guru has given some service to me. And you know ultimately who my Guru is. Sri Barshabhani Videvi Dayatadai. By extension, he means Radharani. She's the supreme guru of all the Gaudiyas. So this service that's come to me, it comes from her. And I know how much you want to be with her. So, my dear brother, if you will help me do, because I don't consider myself fit to do this service that she's given to me. I'm unqualified in so many ways. But I'm thinking, you're the most qualified. When I consider who is qualified, I can think of no one more qualified than you. So, if you will help me fulfill that service that she's given to me, then she'll be so pleased with you. You'll get her association, and I know that you want. So Guru Maharaj said, in this irresistibly, appealing way, Prabhupada, was conscripting Krishna to do the seva. So who but Srila Guru Maharaj can give that sort of interpretation and glorification? So I would remind Srila Prabhupada's disciple, saying like, my appreciation for Srila Prabhupada increased by hearing from Srila Sridhar Maharaj, Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj, and Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj, who Guru Maharaj would say that the pranam mantra of a guru should generally be written by a qualified disciple. As the case may be, sometimes there isn't qualified, and by that we mean they know Sanskrit and Siddhanta and have Bruhu Snigdasya Shishyasya Guru have love and affection. Right, those things. Not just know Sanskrit, not just know Siddhanta, but also submissive, love, and affection. All of these things. Where are you going to find such a person to compose the pranam? So Srila Prabhupada, for his disciples, he modified the generic Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Buddha, and wrote another one, which is really almost like praise for Srila Saraswati Thakur, Namaste, Gauravani, Saraswati Devam, Gauravani Pacharani. Right? But Srila Govinda Maharaj has this qualification. He knows Sanskrit, he knows Siddhanta, and he has pure love and affection for His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So much so, when you say, people go, why did you start saying Bhagavan Saraswati Thakur? He said, because I have seen. Remember, in Gaudiya Mat, Prabhupada means Saraswati Thakur. He said, I go all over the world. He said, when you say Prabhupada, it means one person. Swami Maharaj. That's Prabhupada, means Swami Maharaj. He said, so, because whenever you say Prabhupada, they think Swami Maharaj. So I gave Bhagavan for Saraswati Thakur, and with Guru Maharaj's approval. But, so, Srila Govinda Maharaj, he could perfectly compose these mantras in glorification of Srila Prabhupada. And we'll conclude with this. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Swami Sri Bhaktivedanta Prabhupadaya Te Namaha, Gurvagyam Shirashi Dritva Shaktya Vesha Swarupine, Hare Krishneti Mantrena Paschatcha Prachtatarine, Vishvacharya Prabharjaya Divya Karunya Murte, Sri Bhagavata Madhurja Gita Jnana Pradayine, Gaura Sri Rupa Siddhanta Saraswati Nishevane, Radha Krishna Padamboja Bringaya Gurave Namaha. I offer my respect, my humble obeisances unto His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is Krishna's beloved associate and who came down to this plane from Goloka, taking the order of his guru on his head. He is the Shaktivesh, empowered incarnation of Nityananda personified. He distributed the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra all over the Eastern and Western world, delivering and uplifting all fallen souls. He is the best of millions of Jagat Gurus because he is the personification of divine mercy. He has distributed the sweet nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam and the transcendental knowledge of Bhagavad Gita all over the world. He is constantly engaged in exclusive devotional service to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Rupa Goswami, and Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. I offer my humble obeisances unto Srila Prabhupada, who is like a bumblebee, always tasting the nectar of the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha and Govinda. His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Avirbhav Mahamohotsava Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Sri Nandotsav Ki Jai, Nitai Go Premanande. And we sing this favorite song of Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Radha Madhava.
Swami Prabhupada, Avirabha Mahamahotavati Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jai Om Vishnupad Brahmahanda Parivrajaka Charya Satarasada Shri Srimad, Srila Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakha Sridhar Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopalokanath Shama Kundu Radha Kundu Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Krishna Balaram Mandir Ki Jai, Shri Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Shri Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Ganga Devi Guna Devi Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Om Vishnupad Vishwavarenya Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Avirabha Mahamahotavati Ki Jai. Get the drum and virtuals again. One more thing we have to do. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Mat Acharya Vrinda Ki Jai, Sannyasi Vrinda Ki Jai, Seva Vrinda Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Nitai Go Premanande.
Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj ki.
Did the deities arrive? They're here. All right, we should have a little kirtan for them on the way up to their... Where are they? In the car. All right, so let's have a little kirtan. Dandavas to Rupa Vilas Prabhu, Kum Kum Deity, Dande Maharaj, Rishikesh Maharaj, Indumukhi, Suchitra, Seva Rupa, Suresh Krishna Prabhu, Udaran Prabhu, Yuvati Deity, Dandavat Indumukhi in China, Ajita Krishna Prabhu, there in Abhazia Dham. Hare Krishna, Madhavi Lata, Leela Shakti, Viroja Devi, Das Anudas, Priyanana is here, Jamuna is here, Rukmini, Didi, Nityananda Das here, Tungavidya here. So we're announcing the auspicious arrival of Sri Sri Guru Gauranga Radha Radha Govinda Sundar. So the deity, they've arrived at this very auspicious moment, so we're going to have a little kirtan to receive them and take them to their quarters after their long journey. Hare Krishna. And you'll be seeing more of them in the future. Hare Krishna. Jai. Vanchakalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhuveva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavyo namo namaha.